Soulful shit, you know what I'm saying? Like, just some soulful shit for everyone, you know what I'm saying? Like, I made this be myself, so hear me. Woo! I mean, like, we can pull that clown shit away. This some real shit for you. I'm spazzing right now, so listen, let's go. Yeah. It's in their bones, the thugs in harmony for the love of the money. Then fall victim for the cookie, then turn pussy, it's lonely. You said you hold it down when life get rough, we're here now, so show me. We move them losses to them wins. Heavy pounds, we make it ends meet. Converse with only a few who make me feel like I be 10 feet.
Welcome, guys. We are back in the building for my top 4 title chances. Guys, please make sure you are smashing the like, sharing, and subscribing to the channel. If you're watching this on a replay, please make sure you are doing this. If you're in the chat, big up to your damn selves. For those who are in the chat, I don't know who's in there at this current moment in time, but big up to your damn selves. So obviously you guys already know, of course, why we're here today. We're taking a look at Chelsea. So of course we took a look at Arsenal first because they are currently sitting in 4th at this current moment in time. Spoke obviously of course about them and my kind of where I kind of see Arsenal. Now obviously Chelsea are kind of they're in the exact same position effectively in terms of points on the board, so there is that, but they're sitting in 3rd place at this moment in time. And listen, look, Chelsea, new manager in Enzo Maresca. He's done a good job so far. I definitely can't say otherwise. He has done a good job. Obviously, getting him in, from Leicester City, who were really good, of course, in the Championship last season, winning that, playing some really good football. It was interesting to get someone like him in, and obviously him coming in the same summer as like Arne Slot as well. There was this kind of like, can only rivals and stuff like that. I can only assume they would have looked at it and thought, yeah, you know what? Don't think this is going to work out for both sets of teams. Maresca probably more so, and I say more so just because of the whole circus at Chelsea Football Club. In terms of the signings and the amount of players that these guys have kind of got in, and players who how many players they had on their books, and there was just too much going on at Chelsea, so much. And I always felt when I looked here, the thing with Chelsea, I've always said, again, just my own opinion, Chelsea have got some good players. I feel anyway, and they've got some good young players. Cole Palmer, obviously, good player. Madueke, I think, is a good player. Caicedo, Lavia, good players. Who else they got in there? Cucurella, I actually think is actually pretty decent. I think he had a bad season last season, but I actually think he's decent. I like Levi Colwill, but this season he's not really been too on job. Obviously, Malo Gusto, Reece James, good players as well. And then they've got, of course, obviously all of these young players. Now, obviously, you guys can see on the screen, Sterling is there, but we know, he's currently, at Arsenal with Jadon Sancho, coming to Chelsea. Chelsea, like, obviously, I can't explain what they were, what they are, what they were, what they are currently doing at this moment in time in regards to, the whole transfer side of things. To me, it kind of looks like you're doing like an FM save where you can only really sign wonder kids / players of like a certain age, and then trying to potentially supplement that with players like your João Felix's, as an example, those kind of a bit more experienced kind of players, and maybe a Dewsbury Hall, who's someone who can play in the system that Enzo Maresca obviously played a little bit at Leicester City, and obviously trying to implement that at Chelsea now, and a few other players kind of dotted around. But all in all, it's been a bit like, don't really know where you're going in terms of your sense of direction. But if we're being honest, it seems like, listen, he had a big job, because the reality is we know what Chelsea have been on in the last 20 years. We know what they've been on. They've been on sacking managers. They've been on, letting guys go midway through a season. Graham Potter, for example. They've been on signing a whole bunch of players for X amount, and then still signing a whole bunch of next players, for X amount. So they've been on doing these kind of things for such a long time, that Enzo Maresca coming in, someone who doesn't have the profile, of course, of previous managers, been in the job, the Tuchels, of course, the Jose Mourinhos, the Carlo Ancelottis, even the Scolaris, Sarris, and all these kind of guys. But he comes in with, I would say, a bit more of a philosophy. And if I'm being honest, this season, they've played some really, really decent football. Only lost 2 games as well. So listen, they're in good stead in that kind of sense. 1-5, drawn 4 of those games. Yeah, I feel like he's getting his message across. Now, obviously, where they've got like this massive squad of players, that's obviously going to play its part in terms of management, squad management, player management, whatever you want to kind of call it. And I think, to be honest, at the moment, again, he's showing that he's doing it pretty decently. Do you know what I mean? Like, I don't look at it and think, Jesus Christ, man. Like, I know we all joke and laugh, they got like 50 odd players and this, that, and the third, but he's been able to, obviously, they're in the Europa Conference League at the moment, a competition I believe Chelsea should be winning anyway. But they're in that competition. He's been able to have a squad for that, and then he's got his squad for, League Cup, Premier League and stuff like that. So where he's able to kind of separate the two, which kind of probably stands him in good stead because he can still have a strong enough squad for that Conference League. I mean, Cole Palmer's not even in the squad, I believe. So, someone like Cole Palmer, who's obviously their best player, to then not even have him worrying about those kind of competitions and then having him on a week-to-week basis playing in the Premier League, it can only help. It can really, really only help. And, players like Madueke, obviously, who are playing well as well, it's helping them. I feel anyway, those kind of things. And again, like I said, as much as we joke, they do have a decent squad. They actually do have a lot of players. Like, I think they signed, obviously, Stavio as well, the young Brazilian kind of wonder kid, new kind of kid on the block, who's another fantastic looking player in terms of, his ability. You can see, obviously, this is their recent form. Only defeats they've got in is against Liverpool and Newcastle. They've either won or drawn, the rest of the games drew to Nottingham Forest. But listen, Forest are sitting there on the same points as these guys. So we know Forest are no mugs. Obviously, drew to Arsenal as of recently and Manchester United. So listen, man, like I said, they've been, they're one that you don't really know. I think that's where I kind of look at someone like Chelsea is, don't really know where it goes with a team like Chelsea. As I mentioned before, obviously, Cole Palmer, as they like to call it, Cole Palmer FC, obviously after his brilliant season last season for Chelsea, this season, I think he's had good games. Whether he's able to keep up the momentum, I guess it remains to be seen. Yeah, I think it remains to be seen with someone like Cole Palmer for this season. Let's see, of course, how he can kind of do. So far, listen, so far, so good. You got 12 GA and 13 games, 7 goals and 5 assists, in all competitions. So he's doing his thing, at this current moment in time. So yeah, if he's able to keep that up, I think, it will stand in good stead, for Chelsea, moving forward. But yeah, I just think it's weird. Honestly, it's so weird with Chelsea. Like, because obviously Arsenal been battling, for the title, the last couple of seasons. You got Liverpool, you got Manchester City, 2 teams, of course, who've been battling for the title. Chelsea haven't been there. So to see them now in this kind of position, again, guys, we're only taking stock after 11 games. So I'm not trying to predict the future. It's just more how things look like now. And as I mentioned, in the previous episode, in the Arsenal segment, we'll take stock again, after the 20th game and then 30th game, and then we can really look at it, come the run in, if the league isn't obviously finished by then, in terms of who's going to win it. But when you're looking at Chelsea, they're just like a team of, I don't really know. I really don't know. I mean, Nico Jackson as well last season, I would say, last season a little bit like he did okay last season for a first season, playing at a team like Chelsea. And in English football, signing from Villarreal. But this season, I mean, listen, look, he's not my type of player, and I've had these conversations with people. But listen, this season he's showing that he's gotten better in terms of maybe his overall all-round play, I would say. Still kind of a raw player, but this season is going to be a big learning curve for him, and I do think that he's looking like he's going on some form of a trajectory. So to speak, this season. But again, let's of course, wait and see, in regards to that. But yeah, for me, I do think it is a case of they're kind of the unknown, if I'm being super honest, with a team like Chelsea. They really are like an unknown entity. Like, I'm going to find it difficult, and you guys in the chat, you can let me know. I'm going to find it really difficult to kind of know how do I rank them? What is their percentage? Like, it's difficult because they're almost having that, not the same season as like Arsenal had a couple of years ago, because obviously they're not at the top, but they're having that kind of, did you expect them to potentially be here? Maybe not. You might have had maybe a Villa potentially, in their position. But if they can continue doing what they're doing, I think they give themselves the best opportunities, obviously what I can say. But that's obvious, at the end of the day, keep doing what you're doing. Of course, you're going to have that. I just think that maybe a bit of experience, I feel potentially that they're, might be lacking in in their team in certain areas. I do think when I look at their defense, obviously, you know, Reece James, he's been, you know, in and out of the team with injuries and stuff like that. I do feel like that is one area, not right back, but just in terms of the defense in itself, they do lack a leader, you know, someone at the back. I mean, you got this Disasi, you got Colwell, you got Badishile. Yeah, no, I don't really look at that team and think, yeah, kind of thing, you know, Fofana as well. It's like they got good players, but no real leaders, in my personal opinion, when I think about, especially when you think about the type of players that Chelsea have had at the back, you know, the John Terrys, Carvalhos, Gary Cahills, and stuff like that. They're missing that type of player, almost a transformative type of defender in like a Van Dijk, someone who comes in and it's like, boom, this is the guy. You know, this is the guy, you know, he's going to be the rock at the back and etc. etc. Got good players, but I don't think they've really got that. In the midfield, it seems like obviously Enzo Fernandez, I don't really know what's going on, you know, with him in terms of in the last game that they played against Arsenal, he's coming off the bench. But obviously Caicedo, Lavia, I think two really good players, very, very good players. I like them. Caicedo has definitely been a lot better this season, a lot more consistent with his performances. Lavia barely obviously played, obviously due to injury last season, but he's showing everybody as to why a lot of teams were, you know, looking at someone like a Lavia. So midfield, I feel like it's okay. Obviously, I mean, you'd have to look at, you know, in terms of their depth more than anything else. If a certain player gets injured here, who comes in, who steps in and stuff like that. But I feel like they've got enough players to be able to maybe combat that. Forward line, striker-wise, no, it's only really, in my opinion, Jackson and Nkunku. I mean, I like Nkunku quite a bit, but he's not really a striker, is he? Obviously, on the wings, you know, they've got Pedro Neto, obviously, in there, Madueke, Mudryk, Palmer. Like, they've got enough players in their team, I feel, to be able to potentially move on and move forward and could have a good season. Obviously, what that constitutes for Chelsea, I don't really know. I'm going to assume win the Conference League, get top 4 at minimum, you know, in the Premier League. I reckon if Chelsea can do that, then they've had a successful season. You know, you walk away with a European trophy, even I don't rate the trophy, and I don't think it's anything worth rating. But if you're in it to win it, right? So if you can win that trophy, win that tournament, cool. Then, you know, you're kind of good to go. Then you'll get yourself back into the Champions League anyway through the place that you finish in the Premier League. And then you're kind of moving on and moving forward. And I don't feel like with a team like Chelsea, if they keep the things the way that they are at this current moment in time, I don't feel like they require too much in order for them to go, would I say, to like that next level. Like I said, it is more, I look at the goalkeeping situation, they 1,000,000%. I mean, look how many goalkeepers they got there anyway. They might not even have all of these guys still there. Again, this is kind of an old picture at like the beginning of the summer. But they've got too many goalkeepers anyway, and none of them are good. None of them are of a required standard that you would need in order for you to go to that next level. It reminds me of when Liverpool had like Millionaire. It's that kind of level of goalkeepers that they've got. So they need to obviously improve upon that. I still think that they need that top defender, you know, centre back in there. I think if they get that in, that will also help with that. Midfield, I'm not too sure with their midfield situation, so I'm gonna leave that one and allow Chelsea fans to kind of speak on that, you know, themselves. Up front, maybe they might be looking at a striker, an Osimhen, if he becomes available, you know, in the summer, you know, something like that. And I think, yes, obviously, I'm talking about the spine of the team, but that, as we know, is the most important part. It's that spine. Get that spine right, you can soar. You can, you know, kind of do things. But again, they've still got other players, you know, out on loan and all of this kind of stuff who might be then become more fixtures in the side. So yeah, like, you know, with Chelsea, it's a, like I said, it's a weird one. I really don't know how to kind of place them, so to speak, because I don't think they're bad. I do actually think they're pretty good. Like the way that Enzo Maresca's obviously gotten the team to play. I do think that, like the same way I think about Liverpool is that ultimately, I feel people obviously say, yeah, the team's going to get better. I don't feel like maybe the team will be more consistent, because that's the same way I feel about Liverpool, is that the team will be more consistent. I don't think they will get better. I just think it stays more consistent. So where you're drawing certain games against certain teams, then you're just like, oh, okay, cool. In those games now, so let's say they would have drawn against, I don't know, who did they draw against recently? Let's just say they drew against Nottingham Forest, prime example, right? You drew against Forest. So those kind of games, right? Now, instead of drawing against a Nottingham Forest in these type of games that you might have coming up, now you're winning those games now. So it's just the consistency level just going to get a little bit better, so to speak. I don't know if the team necessarily gets that much better, because I do think that, again, like I say about Liverpool, I feel like the team is already playing at a level where the players are playing not to their best. You can play better, of course, in certain players, sorry, can play better. Levi Cole was definitely one of those players I think about who can play a little bit better, but I don't know if that much better is going to be that much of a difference to the overall impact of the team, so to speak. I feel like they're already playing not even at their optimum level, just as a team. I do feel like, yeah, you're kind of playing at the level I expect you to kind of be at, to be honest with you. I don't know how much better you're going to be than this outside of you signing different players. If you sign better players in certain areas, i.e. better goalkeeper, a centre back and another striker, for example, that's when I feel, oh, Chelsea going to go to the next level, because you add in those kind of players, supplement with the players that you've already got who are playing at that high level, bang, all of a sudden now it starts to look different. If you guys, kind of catch my drift. So that's just where I'm kind of at, when I think about Chelsea and, their kind of situation, at this current moment in time. So, yeah, listen, look, they're sitting in third. We come back, as I mentioned, after this international break. Let's see how they kind of, maneuver this kind of period as well. Coming up to Christmas is always a bit tricky. It's always a bit difficult because of the games coming thick and fast. Got games here, got games there, different competitions, players getting injured, players getting tired, fatigue. So many different things obviously have to get factored in. But at this moment in time, I mean, they're doing all right, man. They are doing all right, man. And I do rate Chelsea. I think, I know the other day, we had that conversation on Sam's channel where we're speaking when Liverpool had to face Chelsea. And listen, look, the reality is, at this moment in time, it's not like you don't deserve to be looked at any other way than the way I would look at like Brighton, where I'm like, yeah, it's going to be a difficult game, but I don't take you that seriously at this moment in time, unfortunately. As big as your club is and the things you've won over the recent, in my recent history and stuff like that, watching the Premier League, yeah, at this moment in time, yeah, you're not there yet. Unfortunately, whether you like it, don't like it, but you're not there yet. Once you get there, then we can have these kind of conversations. And obviously, what I fear more for like a team like Arsenal, the problem is if Chelsea were to, become that bit better and finish higher than Arsenal and, back in the Champions League and this, that, and the third, I feel like it's teams like Arsenal you might start falling by the wayside. Chelsea got money. Chelsea can spend some dough. And Chelsea, if they need to, they'll sell some players if they really, really need to. Do you get what I'm trying to say? Like, they've got money to burn, I feel, so to speak. So with that being said, teams do need, just like I said about Manchester United, with Ineos obviously coming in and, et cetera, et cetera. You just got to be easy. You just got to be careful. You just got to be careful with these kind of teams, because once they click, and obviously it looks at this moment in time after game week 11, I just want to reiterate that game week 11, it does look like, oh, okay, Chelsea, boy, at this moment in time, they are starting to click. Now, if they go through this next 10-game period, or up until, let's say, Christmas, for example, if they go through this whole period and they're still third and they're still close to the top, it's a different conversation now that we're having. It really is a different conversation. Listen, they're 9 points off the top. Fair enough. So that is over. But for right now, for the development of Chelsea, I think that is brilliant. That is absolutely brilliant, because the reality is, you're looking at it like this. The two teams above you are better than you, have been better than you for years. So, and you're not at that level yet, which is fine, because no one's asking you to be at that level. Well, sorry, City are 4 points, Liverpool are 9. But we're not asking you to be at that level yet. What we're asking you is, can you start to close the gap a little bit? Can you close that gap? Right now, they're level on points with Arsenal. Not saying that they're going to finish there, not saying they're going to stay there, but you're level on points with Arsenal and you're only 4 behind City. So can we now start to close that gap? Even if you kept that same gap, if it was the same amount of points come game week 20, game week 19, I still feel like, Chelsea got to definitely be looking at it thinking, this is really good. We're having a really good season. do you get what I'm trying to say? So, yeah, man, things can change. Things can obviously look a bit different. We'd have to, of course, wait and see in regards to that. Like I say, Enzo Maresca, sorry, I feel like he's having a good season so far, man. New manager, new team, a couple teams within that new team, so he's had a lot to deal with, but I feel like he's just, hit everything head on and just kind of done his thing. And yeah, now Chelsea are kind of obviously bearing the fruit of that, at this current moment in time. So yeah. I feel like Chelsea are one of out of probably all the 4 teams, they're the one I look at and think that's a difficult one. I don't know what it looks like for them, because I don't know what it's gonna look like moving forward. I don't know how good they can continue to be. Can they keep up this level of consistency? Like I just don't really know, you know, when it does come to Chelsea. But listen, man, let's wait and see. Let's see how, of course, how it goes. And then of course we can just kind of, you know, take it from there. But let me know what you guys think in the chat in regards to Chelsea. Do you think, you know, Chelsea, what are their title chances, you know, for this season? How much do you rate them? How much you don't rate them? All of that kind of stuff. Let me know your thoughts in the comment section, people, and I will catch you tomorrow, same time, for the next edition. Peace.